July 1st, 1970. 7,200 feet above sea level. The Huey's skids touch red clay and the crew chief shouts one word. Go! 20-year-old Specialist 4, Danny Walden, jumps into Firebase Ripcord with his M16 and 60 pounds of gear. The rotor wash kicks up dust that tastes like copper and jungle rot. He runs toward a sandbag wall. And that's when he hears it, the sound that will haunt him for 50 years. A distant thump, then a whistle growing louder. He dives. The 122mm rocket explodes 15 feet away, and the shockwave slams him into the clay. His ears ring. Smoke everywhere. When he looks up, the helicopter that brought him is already gone. Climbing fast, tracers chasing it into the gray sky. A sergeant he's never met grabs his collar and drags him toward a bunker. "Welcome to Ripcord, Boot. You just flew into the worst place in Vietnam." That rocket was not random. It was zeroed in, calculated. The North Vietnamese gunners who fired it have been watching this hilltop for weeks. They know every helicopter approach angle. They know where men run when incoming fire starts. They know something the Americans are only beginning to understand. Firebase Ripcord is not a strategic position. It's a trap, and 400 American soldiers are sitting inside it. This is the story of how courage and firepower, the two things the US military trusted most, became irrelevant when the terrain belonged to the enemy. This is the story of a siege that should have never happened, and the soldiers who paid the price when commanders refused to admit their mistake until it was almost too late. March 17th, 1970. 3 months earlier. The decision is made in an air-conditioned command post at Camp Eagle. Firebase Ripcord will be established on Hill 902 in the Shau Valley as part of Operation Texas Star. The objective? Disrupt North Vietnamese supply lines moving south along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. On the map, it makes perfect sense. Control the high ground. Force the enemy to fight or retreat. Apply American firepower until they break. But maps don't show everything. They don't show that Hill 902 is surrounded by even higher ridgelines. They don't show that the Shau Valley has been a North Vietnamese stronghold for 5 years. They don't show that every previous American attempt to control this valley has ended in blood and withdrawal. In 1968, a Special Forces camp 20 miles south was overrun after a brutal siege. The evacuation turned into one of the most desperate battles of the war. The valley earned a nickname among soldiers: the Shau, where operations go to die. But in March of 1970, American commanders believe this time will be different. The 101st Airborne Division is experienced and well-equipped. Artillery fire support bases ring the valley. Helicopter, gunships can respond within minutes. Tactical airstrikes are always on call. The assumption is clear. American technology and firepower can defend any position, no matter how exposed. Firebase Ripcord will prove that assumption catastrophically wrong. Engineers arrive first. Chinook helicopters sling-load chainsaws and demolition charges to the hilltop. They clear jungle, blast rock, carve out flat ground for 105mm howitzers. Within 2 weeks, Ripcord has bunkers, sandbag walls, concertina wire, and an artillery battery. It looks formidable. From the inside. From the outside, from the ridge lines that rise 300 feet higher on all sides, it looks like exactly what it is. A target. The first infantry units arrive in late March. They're veterans, most of them. Second and third tour soldiers who know the rhythms of firebase life. Dig fighting positions, fill sandbags, string wire, pull guard duty, run patrols. The work is exhausting in the humidity, but it's familiar. What bothers them is what they see when they look up. enemy-controlled ridges surrounding them in a horseshoe, thick jungle canopy that hides everything. And at night, sounds. Movement in the tree line, branches snapping, the feeling of being watched. Sergeant First Class Thomas McKibben is a squad leader with 3 tours behind him. On his 4th day at Ripcord, he's filling sandbags when he stops and stares at the ridgeline to the north. Another soldier asks what he's looking at. McKibben doesn't take his eyes off the jungle. They're up there, right now, counting us, measuring distances. We just gave them a stationary target and called it a firebase. The other soldier asks if he's reported it. McKibben laughs, a sound without humor. Reported what? That I got a bad feeling. They'll tell me we got arty support and air cover. Like that's gonna matter when they drop mortars on us from ground we can't even see. He's right, but no one listens. 210 miles north, in a command bunker outside Hanoi, North Vietnamese officers study reconnaissance reports. Firebase Ripcord is marked on their maps with red ink. Its coordinates, its strength, its purpose. Senior Colonel Nguyen Van Tho has been fighting in the Shau Valley since 1965. He knows this terrain the way a farmer knows his fields, and he knows what the Americans have just done. They've built a firebase in the center of his supply corridor. It cannot be tolerated. It will not be tolerated. The North Vietnamese don't rush. They plan. Over the next 6 weeks, they move forces into position with methodical patience. 51 caliber anti-aircraft guns are positioned on the ridges north and west of Ripcord, camouflaged beneath triple canopy jungle. Mortar teams dig firing pits on the eastern slope, pre-sighting their weapons. Rocket artillery is emplaced in hardened bunkers. Ammunition is stockpiled. Escape routes are prepared. Infantry units rehearse assault approaches. All of this happens while American patrols stumble through the jungle below, finding nothing but old trails and empty bunkers. The North Vietnamese are ghosts, until they decide not to be. The Americans are not blind. Intelligence reports note increased enemy activity. Radio intercepts suggest troop movements. Reconnaissance flights photograph new trails. But the assessments remain optimistic. The enemy is reacting to our presence. They're being forced to divert resources. The firebase is accomplishing its mission. These conclusions are wrong, but they sound right. And in war, what sounds right often matters more than what is true. April 23rd, 1970, 03:15 hours. Danny Walden is asleep in a bunker when the first mortar round hits. The explosion is so loud it doesn't register as sound. Just pressure that compresses his chest and stops his breath. Then another, and another. He scrambles for his helmet and flak jacket, hands shaking. Outside, the night is alive with fire. Mortars are landing across the firebase. 6, 8, 10 at a time. Dirt and shrapnel spray through the air. Someone is screaming. Someone else is yelling for a medic. Walden presses himself against sandbags and tries to count the seconds between explosions. But there are no gaps. The barrage is continuous, coordinated, overwhelming. This is not harassment fire. This is a statement. After 90 seconds that feel like an hour, the shelling stops. The silence is worse than the noise. Men emerge from bunkers, ears ringing, checking themselves for wounds. 4 soldiers are hit. 1 is dead. 22-year-old Private First Class Luis Herrera from El Paso, killed by shrapnel while running for cover. His body is carried to the aid station and covered with a poncho. By dawn, a medevac helicopter will take him away, but for now, he lies still. The first American to die at Firebase Ripcord. He will not be the last. The pattern establishes itself immediately. Mortar attacks at random intervals. sometimes at dawn, sometimes at midnight, sometimes during resupply operations when helicopters are inbound. The randomness is the weapon. It prevents sleep, destroys routines, creates constant hypervigilance. Soldiers learn to recognize the sound of a mortar tube firing. A hollow thump from the ridgeline. Then they have maybe 4 seconds. 4 seconds to dive. 4 seconds to pray. 4 seconds to live or die based on math they can't control. American artillery fires back. The 105mm howitzers at Ripcord and the 155s at Firebase Gladiator, 10 miles southbound, suspected enemy positions. Hundreds of rounds. Thousands. The jungle explodes in white phosphorus and high explosive. But the North Vietnamese guns are mobile and hidden. They fire. They displace. They fire again from a new position. American counter-battery fire hits. Nothing but trees. By early May, Firebase Ripcord has taken 37 casualties. 8 dead. The firebase has been operational for 6 weeks. Commanders at division headquarters insist the operation is succeeding. Enemy forces are being fixed in place. Supply lines are disrupted. The firebase is fulfilling its purpose. At Ripcord itself, soldiers have a different assessment. They're surrounded. They're being shelled daily, and nothing they do seems to matter. McKibben sits in a bunker after a particularly heavy barrage and stares at his hands. They won't stop shaking. Another sergeant asks if he's okay. McKibben doesn't answer for a long time. Then, "We're not disrupting them. They're bleeding us. This whole thing is backwards." And nobody's willing to say it out loud. May 29th, 1970. The siege intensifies. North Vietnamese gunners have spent weeks adjusting their aim, and now their fire is devastatingly accurate. Mortar rounds land inside bunkers. Rockets explode on the landing zone. Sniper fire comes from the tree line, killing men moving between positions. The firebase is being systematically dismantled. One explosion at a time. Casualties climb. 9 dead. 15. 23. The aid station, a bunker dug into the hillside, becomes the busiest place on Ripcord. Doc Wilson, a 24-year-old medic from Tuscaloosa, works 18-hour shifts treating shrapnel wounds, concussions, traumatic amputations. He stops sleeping. When incoming rounds hit, he runs. Toward the explosions, not away. He pulls wounded men from collapsed bunkers. He applies tourniquets under fire. He holds soldiers while they die and tells them they're going home. On June 4th, he's treating a sucking chest wound when a mortar lands 12 feet away. Shrapnel tears through his left leg and arm. He keeps working, tying off the bleeder, sealing the chest wound. Before he'll let anyone treat him. When they finally medevac him out, his hands are still steady. Later, he'll receive the Silver Star. He'll also never practice medicine again. The nightmares won't let him. The real crisis is the helicopters. By June, flying into Firebase Ripcord is considered a near-suicide mission. The North Vietnamese have positioned anti-aircraft guns with overlapping fields of fire covering every approach to the landing zone. When a helicopter comes in, the guns open up simultaneously. 51 caliber rounds, bullets as thick as a man's thumb, punch through aluminum fuselages like paper. Rotors disintegrate. Hydraulic lines burst. Engines explode. June 11th, 1970. Warrant Officer James Torbert is flying a Huey loaded with ammunition and medical supplies. He's made 4 runs into Ripcord this week. Each one his aircraft has taken hits. Each time he's made it out. His crew chief tells him their luck is running thin. Torbert doesn't disagree. But he flies anyway. The men on Ripcord need these supplies. That's the only calculation that matters. The approach is textbook. Low and fast, hugging the valley floor until the last second, then climbing toward the landing zone. At 500 feet, the anti-aircraft fire begins. Tracers arc up from 3 positions simultaneously. Torbert hears impact. Sharp metallic pings as rounds hit the tail boom. His door gunner returns fire, brass casings bouncing around the cabin. The landing zone is 30 seconds away. Torbert keeps the helicopter steady, fighting every instinct to break off and run. Then his co-pilot grunts. Torbert glances right. His co-pilot is slumped forward, blood spreading across his chest. A .51 caliber round came through the windscreen. Torbert is flying alone now. He keys the radio. Ripcord. Chalk 3 is hit. Co-pilot down. Continuing approach. His voice is steady. Professional. 22 years old, and his hands don't shake. He lands. 10 seconds on the ground. Soldiers unload supplies and pull his co-pilot out. Then Torbert lifts off, the helicopter shuddering, hydraulics failing, engine temperature redlining. He makes it 4 miles before the engine seizes. The Huey auto-rotates into the jungle. Torbert walks away with a fractured ankle and second-degree burns. His co-pilot, Warrant Officer Carl Decker, is dead between June 1st and July 23rd. 16. Helicopters are shot down or destroyed attempting to supply Firebase Ripcord. 9 crew members are killed. 23 are wounded. The pilots keep flying. Because if they stop, the men on Ripcord die. But everyone involved knows the math is unsustainable. You cannot win a war by feeding helicopters into a meat grinder. July 5th, 1970, 1600 hours. Danny Walden has been at Firebase Ripcord for 4 days. It feels like 4 years. He hasn't slept more than 90 minutes at a stretch. His hands shake constantly. His ears ring even when there's no incoming fire. Yesterday, he watched a helicopter explode on approach, the crew burning inside the wreckage because the North Vietnamese were firing on anyone who tried a rescue. Today, a mortar round landed 8 feet from him and didn't explode. He stared at it. A dud, buried nose first in the red clay, and realized he felt nothing. Not relief. Not fear. Nothing. That night he's pulling guard duty when mortars start landing again. He dives into a bunker with McKibben and 2 other soldiers. The shelling goes on for 20 minutes. When it stops, they emerge to find half the firebase on fire. The ammunition bunker took a direct hit. Secondary explosions are cooking off. Artillery rounds detonating with flat, concussive bangs. That make the ground jump. The landing zone is unusable. The radio bunker is collapsed. 11 men are wounded. 3 are dead. McKibben sits on a pile of sandbags and lights a cigarette with trembling hands. Walden asks him how much longer they have to hold. McKibben takes a long drag and stares at the burning bunker. Kid, we're not holding anything. We're just waiting to see if they kill us all before somebody finally admits this was a mistake. He's right. At division headquarters, the debate has reached a breaking point. Casualty reports from Ripcord are stacked on desks. Helicopter losses are documented. Intelligence assessments now estimate that over 2,000 North Vietnamese troops are positioned around the firebase. The strategic justification for holding Ripcord, disrupting enemy logistics, has collapsed. The firebase isn't disrupting anything. It's being systematically destroyed, and the cost of keeping it supplied has become obscene. On July 18th, Major General John Hennessy makes the decision. Firebase Ripcord will be evacuated. The announcement is carefully worded. Tactical repositioning. Redeployment of assets. But everyone understands what it means. After 4 months, after 61 American deaths, after hundreds of wounded, Firebase Ripcord is being abandoned. The hilltop will be given back to the enemy. Every soldier who died defending it died for ground that will belong to the North Vietnamese by the end of the month. July 23rd, 1970. 0530 hours. The evacuation order comes down. Soldiers are told to pack essential gear only. Everything else will be destroyed. The firebase that took weeks to build will be erased in hours. Some men feel relief. They're finally getting off this death trap. Others feel rage. Rage at the commanders who put them here. Rage at the politicians who started this war. Rage at the waste of it all. The plan is deception. Helicopters will maintain regular flight schedules to avoid alerting the enemy. But instead of bringing supplies, they'll extract personnel. Meanwhile, engineers rig demolition charges on everything that can't be removed. Bunkers, artillery pieces, ammunition stockpiles. When the last helicopter lifts off, Firebase Ripcord will be obliterated. The first flights out are smooth. Soldiers load up and fly away. The North Vietnamese don't react. The deception is working. But as the morning progresses and more helicopters arrive, the enemy realizes what's happening. Mortar fire intensifies. Anti-aircraft guns open up. The evacuation transforms into a running battle. 1,300 hours. Only 50 soldiers remain at Ripcord. The perimeter has collapsed inward. Abandoned fighting positions ring the hilltop like a ghost town. Engineers are finishing the demolition rigging when a radio call comes in. A Chinook is inbound to extract the final group. But it's taking heavy fire on approach. They might have to wave off. McKibben is standing on the landing zone, watching the sky. He can hear the helicopter before he sees it. The distinctive whoop, whoop, whoop of twin rotors. Then it appears, massive and slow, tracers chasing it like angry hornets. The Chinook's door. Gunners are firing back, their miniguns roaring. Rounds are punching through the fuselage. The pilot is fighting to keep it steady. It lands hard. Ramp down. McKibben screams, "Move! Now!" Soldiers sprint for the helicopter, boots pounding clay. Walden is the last one running. Behind him, Firebase Ripcord is already detonating. The engineers set the charges on a short fuse. Bunkers explode. Ammunition cooks off. The hilltop is disappearing in fire and black smoke. Walden dives through the Chinook's ramp. Hands grab him and pull him inside. The helicopter is already lifting off. Nose down, engines screaming, rounds still hitting the fuselage. Through the open ramp, Walden watches Firebase Ripcord tear itself apart. The 105mm howitzers explode in sequence. Orange fireballs that climb into the sky. The command bunker collapses. The aid station where Doc Wilson saved so many lives is gone. 4 months of work. 61 deaths. Hundreds wounded. Erased in 90 seconds. The Chinook climbs through the valley, shuddering with damage. One engine is running rough. Hydraulic fluid is streaming from a ruptured line, but the pilot keeps it flying. 15 minutes later, they land at Camp Evans. The ramp drops. Soldiers stumble out into sunlight and silence. Some sit down and stare at nothing. Others vomit. McKibben lights a cigarette and his hands finally stop shaking. Or maybe they never will again. They're alive. But 61 of their brothers are not. August 1970. The after-action reports are filed. Official casualty figures: 61 Americans killed, 345 wounded, 16 helicopters destroyed, 23 damaged beyond repair. North Vietnamese casualties are estimated at 422, though this number is largely guesswork. Firebase Ripcord is classified as a tactical withdrawal, and Operation Texas Star is deemed a limited success. The soldiers who were there read these reports and feel something break inside. Limited success, tactical withdrawal. The words feel obscene. They remember the rockets landing at 3 a.m. They remember carrying their friends' bodies to the aid station. They remember watching helicopters burn. And now some colonel in Saigon is calling it a limited success because the casualty ratio looks acceptable on paper. Walden rotates home in September. He's 21 years old. He weighs 138 pounds. He doesn't sleep more than 2 hours at a time. When he closes his eyes, he's back on the hilltop, diving for cover, counting seconds between explosions. Fireworks on the 4th of July make him hit the ground. Helicopters flying overhead make his chest tighten. He tells no one about Ripcord, because when he tries, the words feel insufficient. How do you explain what it's like to live for 4 days in a place where death is random and constant? How do you make someone understand that you watched good men die defending a position that was abandoned 5 weeks later? You don't. You just carry it. On 1995, 25 years later. Danny Walden is 45 years old. He's a high school teacher in Oregon. He's married, he has 2 kids, he's built a good life, but Firebase Ripcord is still there. In his dreams, in sudden moments when a sound or a smell takes him back. He's learned to live with it the way you learn to live with a scar. It's part of him now. Then he gets a letter, a reunion. Veterans of Firebase Ripcord are gathering in Washington, D.C. He hasn't thought about attending reunions. What's the point? Rehashing old trauma? But something in the letter makes him reconsider. A list of names. Men who were there. Men who understand without explanation. He goes. The reunion is in a hotel conference room. 53 veterans attend. Some he recognizes immediately. Others are strangers until they say their names. McKibben is there, older, grayer, walking with a cane from an old wound. Doc Wilson is there, still carrying the weight of the men he couldn't save. They don't hug or shake hands at first. They just look at each other, and in that look is everything they don't need to say. That night, they talk. Not about tactics or strategy. They talk about the things they remember. The smell of the fire base, cordite and red clay and sweat, the sound of incoming mortars, the helicopter pilots who kept flying when everyone knew it was suicide, the medics who ran toward explosions, the friends who didn't come home. McKibben stands up at one point and reads names. 61 of them. Every American killed at Firebase Ripcord. Some men in the room start crying. No one is ashamed. These were their brothers, the men who fought beside them, the men who died defending a position that shouldn't have been defended. After the names, someone asks the question everyone's been thinking. Was it worth it? Did Ripcord matter? The room goes silent. Finally, McKibben speaks. No. It wasn't worth it. We were sent to hold a hilltop that was indefensible from the start. We lost 61 men for ground we gave back 3 weeks later. Was it worth it? He pauses. But we were there. We held that line when we were ordered to. We didn't quit. We didn't run. That has to mean something. It's not a satisfying answer, because there isn't one. Firebase Ripcord teaches a lesson the military has spent 50 years trying to learn. Courage cannot compensate for bad strategy. Firepower cannot overcome poor positioning. Technology cannot substitute for terrain. The soldiers at Ripcord did everything right. They fought with extraordinary bravery. They trusted their leaders. They followed orders, and 61 of them died. Not because they failed, but because they were asked to defend a position that should never have been established. The North Vietnamese understood something American commanders didn't. In war, terrain matters more than technology. Patience matters more than firepower. They didn't need to overrun Firebase Ripcord. They just needed to make it so costly to hold that the Americans would leave on their own. And that's exactly what happened. Today, Firebase Ripcord is studied at military academies as a cautionary tale. It appears in training manuals under the heading Firebase Vulnerability in Hostile Terrain. It's analyzed for lessons about helicopter logistics, enemy siege tactics, and command decision-making. These are valuable lessons, learned at the cost of 61 American lives. For the families of those who died, the lessons are cold comfort. They want to know their son, their husband, their father died for something that mattered. Some find peace in believing the sacrifice was meaningful. Others never do. They carry the anger of knowing their loved one died defending ground that was abandoned. For the veterans, Firebase Ripcord is neither triumph nor tragedy. It's both. It's the place where they saw humans at their best and military strategy at its worst. It's where helicopter pilots flew into certain death to save soldiers they'd never met. Where medics treated wounds under fire until they collapsed from exhaustion. Where young men held a line they knew couldn't be held because they'd been ordered to hold it. That's what Firebase Ripcord means. Not victory, not defeat. Just the truth that in war, soldiers pay for the mistakes of their commanders. And they pay with everything they have. 2024, 54 years after the siege. Danny Walden is 74 years old. He's retired now. His kids are grown. His wife passed 3 years ago. He doesn't attend the reunions anymore. Too many empty chairs. McKibben died in 2018. Doc Wilson in 2021. The men who were there are disappearing. And with them, the living memory of what happened on that hilltop. But the story remains. Not the official version with its sanitized language and acceptable casualty ratios. The real story. The one about young men sent to defend an indefensible position. About helicopter crews who flew into hell because soldiers needed them. About medics who worked miracles in mud and blood. About a fire base that became a symbol of everything that was wrong with how America fought the Vietnam War. Firebase Ripcord was not the biggest battle. It was not the bloodiest. It did not change the course of the war, but it mattered. Because it revealed a truth that courage and technology could not hide. When you put soldiers in a bad position and ask them to hold it with willpower alone, they will try, they will fight, they will die trying. But that doesn't make it right. 61 Americans died at Firebase Ripcord. 345 were wounded. 16 helicopters were destroyed. And for what? The hilltop that was given back to the enemy 3 weeks after the evacuation. A limited success in a war full of them. A lesson that cost everything to learn. That's the legend of Firebase Ripcord. Not a story of heroes, though there were many. Not a story of failure, though the strategy failed. It's a story about the cost of asking soldiers to pay for decisions made in air-conditioned command posts by men who never heard the whistle of incoming mortars. It's a story that needs to be told. So that maybe, somewhere, someday it doesn't happen again. The hilltop is silent now, but the names remain.